Okay, I'd like to call this meeting for the Newmarket Town Council for Monday, December 20th, 2021 to order. Ms. Laura, if we could have roll call, please.
Here.
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 Yes.
Here.
Here.
Great, thanks. If all will join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And of course, want to invite our visitor, Sonny, here. Thanks for coming tonight. Appreciate it. Council, you have had in front of you the agenda for tonight's meeting. And if there are no questions on the agenda, I will accept a motion to accept it.
I move for the approval of the agenda.
Okay, motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
I do have a second. Any discussion on that motion? Having none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Okay, agenda is passed. And the same for the consent agenda from the minutes from the November 15th, 2021 meeting of the Town Council, the minutes from the November 29th, 2021 work session of the Town Council, and the financial statements for November 2021. And if there is no questions on the consent agenda, I will accept the motion to accept the consent agenda.
I make a motion, we accept the consent agenda.
Do you have a motion? Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? And that motion has passed for the consent agenda. And at this point, tonight we do have a public hearing that I will open at this time. And Mr. Walters, if you will give us some information.
Yeah, briefly, I'll just go over our budget amendment, which we do a public hearing on tonight. There you go. In the approved budget for 21-22, we did not include the payment that we received for our ARPA funding, and that's in the amount of $1,168,762. In this amendment, that has been added now, so there will be a line item in the amended budget in that same amount. Also in this amendment, it reflects a decrease in the general fund operating expenses, $56,493, and an increase in the capital general fund capital outlay, $74,000. That includes additional funding for the purchase of a bucket truck. We've run into an issue where what we had put in the budget, we just cannot find what we need, so we've added additional to that. We've added a little bit to our council chamber upgrades, and then our maintenance shop roof replacement, that cost a little bit more than we were expecting. And then the purchase of a message board. It also includes a one-time $2,000 bonus and a 3% merit increase for all full-time employees. The budget amendment does request the use of $670,669 from the general fund reserves. Here's just the numbers. The general fund by an operating decrease of the $56,493 from $1,989,411 to $1,932,918. General fund to capital outlay, where you got an increase of $74,000 from $498 to $572. And then you see the American Rescue Plan Act, the ARPA funds. Of course, that's a full increase of the $1,168,772. Water sewer fund operating expense increase $1,900. You can see the number there. No change to the debt service. Water sewer fund, the capital outlay, the increase $75,000 from $4,385,000 to $4,460,000. So your total expenditures, they've increased from 1,263,169, from 8,610,442 to 9,873,611. Total revenues, the increase of 1,263,169, from 8,610,442 to 9,873,611. So that's very brief. It's basically everything we went through on our in our work session. Any questions?
Council? No?
Okay.
No. And so with this being the public hearing, is there anybody here that has any questions or statements? And Todd, were there any that were sent in?
No, sir.
Okay. And with that being nothing, so I'll go ahead and close this public hearing, and we will move back into our council meeting. Todd, and speaking of comments, anything sent into the town for any
No,
comments
sir.
on the agenda?
Nothing additional.
Okay. At this point, I will move right into our committee reports. Of course, none, I guess since we're not doing any committee meetings at this time, we'll do staff reports. Public Works monthly report, JD, if you'll take us into that.
Public Works distribution system, repaired the tailpiece on the meter at 147 West Lee Street, repaired the water leak on the service lateral at 145 East Old Cross Road, repaired the water main leak at 9726 Fairway Drive, and repaired sewer lateral at 9532 John Seaver Road. Additional projects, of course, we decorated the town for Christmas. And then our regular monthly maintenance, clean up park restroom, street sidewalk maintenance, weekly leaf and grass collection. And we swept Congress Street, West Old Cross, and Lee Highway. For the water department, we replaced the upper water meter at Newmarket North, cleaned the wet well at Stywell Pump Station, attempted to clean the wet well at Campbell Pump Station, fixed for all water level sensor at the water plant, repaired chlorine monitor at the water plant, replaced the heater at Stywell Pump Station, and installed a sump pump, replaced heater, and repaired sensor line leak at the water tank vault. Any questions?
What does attempted to clean a wet
We
well?
couldn't get it cleaned out. There's some issues that we need to take care of.
So that's not good, right?
Any other questions, council? No? Thanks, JD. Appreciate it. And the town decorations do many compliments from citizens. Next, plan.
Comments from citizens?
Pardon me?
Did you say comments?
We already did that, Sonny. Did you have?
No, I did. I just want to say kudos to the park.
Oh, well, great.
I mean, I just think that is super.
Yeah, they've done a beautiful job, and
Yeah, the people responsible for it needs kudos.
well, I know they're all listening and appreciating that, along with your staff behind you. Thanks, Sonny.
I was asleep, I guess. I didn't hear.
That's okay. Go back. That's okay. So next up is Planning Department Monthly Report. Megan.
I collected a sign permit for 9320 North Congress Street, the Methodist Church. They're putting in an electric sign to display messages about their services and stuff. And I'm collecting permits for active Airbnbs in town, just to make sure that we have everything that we need. I think I've got them all, finally, but if anything pop up and it's want to know, just let me know.
How many active Airbnbs?
4 or 5.
Any questions for Megan? Megan, just to let you know that the Brewster is gone and so are the birds. So you put some clout in there and just want to let you know that.
Thank you.
Megan, the building on Congress Street that we had talked about once before, has that become an Airbnb? It has. Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Megan. Appreciate it. And next is, of course, Public Safety Monthly Report. Chief Rinker.
Good evening.
Evening.
For the month of November, there was a total of 287 calls for the month, 128 for day shift, 159. For night shift, total to year, 3,274. Community policing efforts, 7 property business checks, 106 extra patrols, 3 foot patrols. The extra patrol number is going to continue to increase. The Homeowners Association president at Central Village requested more of a police presence to ensure that we are going through there. We have started logging those patrols. So at a minimum, 2 times a day, someone is going through that property. A few notable events. November 16th, I presented to the CIT class in Farmville. The presentation, Who Takes Care of You? And then just 2 days later, November 18th, I was at the Police Academy and presented to the basic recruit class, emotional longevity and law enforcement. It's basically the same presentation, just different names. No auxiliary man hours. The calls other than extra patrol is pretty average for this time of year. Nothing stuck out there. 14 summonses, 14 warnings. That number is up just a little bit what we've been through the year. The guys participated in November Clicker Ticket Campaign. 3 misdemeanor arrests for the month. No TDOs and ECOs. Thank God. Just 2 pictures that Officer Tobin took up at the park that I thought were really, really neat. Showing off not JD's work, but JD's people's work. And then the new decals, it kind of all flows well. So, any questions?
None? Thank
Chris,
you.
I have one.
Oh.
With,
Yes, ma'am.
with COVID, is there any one particular thing that has been impacted more than anything else over the last couple years that you've seen an increase in any of these categories?
And calls for service?
Yeah.
Just mental health crisis, I think. The rest of it kind of stays the same, but probably the mental health of folks being in crisis would be my guess if I had to throw something out there.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thanks, Chief. Next, number 4 is Events and Marketing Monthly Report, Miss Amber Smoot.
Good evening, council.
Good evening.
So apologies for my absence last month. If any month were a good month for me to be absent, November is usually would be the best one. But so since I wasn't here, November's guest for our Talk New Market podcast was Dr. Briggs. And that was very interesting. I don't know if anybody listened to it, but he had a lot of interesting things to say and how he ended up being here in Newmarket, why him and his family chose to be here. So if you haven't listened to that one, tune in. December, we took a holiday, so we will be back in January recording, and we already have a couple people have asked to be on the docket. So that's nice.
We've made it to the point where people are calling us now.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, people are
Good.
like, hey, could we do this? I thought this would be just a great avenue just to get extra word out. For events, so Trick or Treat on Congress Street went well despite the rainy weather that we had that weekend. Was a little worried that we'd have to cancel that as well, but everybody just kind of pitched in and we did what we needed to do. The library was open down there. We had the trunk or treat over here in the parking lot, and everybody was lined up down the street. I had one merchant say they counted about 300 kids and then they just stopped. That is one that's kind of hard to dictate, as with a lot of our events, because we don't have a ticket counter. We don't have anything that they're purchasing. They just show up. But a lot of the merchants try to count, but then they get to like 300 and they're just like, it's a lot. I actually was really surprised at how many people ended up coming out that night because it wasn't super phenomenal. It kind of spit rain all evening, but so 'tis the season coming into December. You have shop local passport. We had a total of 30 passes turned in and ornaments were redeemed. For our Winter Wonderland drive-through parade, we had a total of 14 participating floats and 467 cars came through the park that night. I've had a lot of really good feedback from the folks that came through. One of the things I will say that we have discussed is just the backup that happens on Cadet there for a stint, but most people that I talked to said it wasn't that bad. I think it's just once we got it going and moving then. But it was bigger this year, and I think everybody had a really good time. It was very pretty. It goes well with the lights. Flashlight candy cane hunt was postponed due to the weather. It was supposed to be on the 11th. So much like the rest of my year, Mother Nature decided I wasn't supposed to have it. So I changed it to this past Saturday. We had maxed out originally at 500. That's my cap of 500 kids signed up. And, but that due to change in the date, there were about 430 that ended up being registered because some had to bow out due to the change in the date. We had roughly, I say 360 show up, but I have not had a chance to crunch those numbers yet. Since that was Saturday, I spent today still cleaning up the park from leftover candy canes that may still have been there. So we did have a good evening though. Everybody was having a good time and all went well. I will throw some kudos to 4-H. The 4-H group did come down. They helped with the setup, so they were there with me for a couple of hours. Helping with setup, I had the National Honor Society from Mountain View come down and they helped with check-in. They sent 4 kids. I had 4 from the General's cheer squad. They were there. They helped with my hunt, so I had lots of volunteers still, and they were awesome. They did exactly as I asked them to, and I couldn't have asked for better help. We had 8 letters to Santa in our new Santa mailboxes. One is located outside the doors here, and then the other one was at the library. Thank you, Peg, for hosting that. I did pick it up today. Deadline for those was the 15th, and we're going to try and continue to keep doing that each year. So next year we'll have more advertising. This was really like a last-minute add-on. Marion Bright Lighting Contest is still open until tomorrow night. So if you haven't helped vote, all of the registered participants are on our website and also on Facebook. So you can see the 5 residences and 3 businesses that participated. And then you just go on our survey through SurveyMonkey and take the survey. And that's how we determine who the winner is. The winners will be announced on December 22nd. And the winners do get a gift basket from local goodies. Other projects and updates, the Rev Up Shinko class that we continue to host with the other towns in the county. That was a great class. A lot of people gave really good feedback. John Henry was one of the winners for the grant money. So we do put in money for that grant for any of the new market businesses that participate. And then they have some hoops that they need to jump through to try and obtain this grant money. So he did get it, and it will help with the business expansion that he has going on. Shenandoah County 250th is right around the corner, so we are all like feeling the pressure right now because it's January 1st. We're going to start off. There's going to be lots of different things. So if you guys go to the website 250th Shinko250th.org, everything will be there. All of our different events. The first one will be in March, right here in New Market at the Virginia Museum of the Civil War. That will be the birthday bash. So I have a group of wonderful people that are helping me with that. Planning next year already and working on marketing items during the winter months. All right, any questions?
Council? Amber, I'll just say that again, appreciate the ideas you come up with, the different things that you do. To try to enhance the activities through the town. And I know it's a coordinated effort that everybody in your think tank. Yeah. But thank you.
Absolutely. Last minute thing. So, I'll be like, hey, Chris, I need this. Or, hey, JD, can I borrow a golf cart?
Yeah.
Or whatever it may be. But we all definitely do work well together. So.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
So council, with that, we'll move into our action items, starting with number 1, discussion and consideration of budget amendment number 1 for the fiscal year 21-22. And Todd, do you have more that you want to say on that, or is it just?
Not unless you have any questions
So
or any
Cap-
more questions.
And that's what I was going to say. As you said during the public hearing, basically everything we've had here, council, is what we discussed in our work session pretty thoroughly that night. But are there any questions on the budget amendment? And if,
May I ask, just, it might be helpful for anyone who wasn't at that meeting to know whether these funds that we're adding on are in any way involved in the American Rescue Plan funds. And I don't know that they are. I don't recall whether they are. Are these, this budget amendment is in any way tied to the funds for the?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, so we are adding the 1,000,001, whatever that number is, into the budget. So we've talked to the auditor about how to spend that money without having to line out everything that we want to spend it on or can spend it on as we go. And so what they just suggested was we create a line item, it's ARPA funding, and then when we come across whatever we need to spend it for, that's what we'll tie it to, as long as it meets those requirements.
Thank you. I just thought it'd be a good idea to make sure that was understood. So,
And
So
there are a couple items
right.
that will come out of there pretty quick.
so with that, council, I would entertain a motion to accept the budget amendment. If so,
I move we accept the budget amendment as presented.
do you have a motion? Do I have a second?
Second.
Do you have a second? That opens up for any discussion on that motion. Hearing none. Ms. Laura, if you'll do a roll call.
Yes.
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 Yes,
Thank you. Motion passed. Next on the action items, number 2, discussion and consideration of ordinance number 18, an ordinance changing elections from May until November. Todd, do you want to say anything more on that? or-
Well, I was going to let Jordan just brief you on it, but it is due to the General Assembly voting to move all elections to November. But I'll let Jordan.
Yeah, basically, the General Assembly last year changed elections that were in May to November, and it's not an option. The town can't choose anymore. We have to go with the November. And hidden in the fine print, they said that they wanted each locality that had May elections to adopt an ordinance changing those elections to being in December. So even though it's something you already have to do, they wanted to see that you have an ordinance changing it. And so you're just kind of meeting that criteria that's been imposed on you by the General Assembly.
And Jordan, as far as reading the ordinance, is that necessary, or since the council has it in front of them?
Since you have it in front of you in your agenda packages, you can just move to, if it's your pleasure, a motion to approve it.
And I'll just remind, just for council's sake here, that on the number 2 on that is saying that no term of any mayor or member of town council shall be shortened in implementing the change to November election date. And any of the aforementioned officers who were elected at a May general election and those whose terms are to expire as of June 30th shall continue in office until their successors have been elected in November general election. So just reminding all of us that, again, those terms for this round at least is extended by approximately 5 months.
That's correct.
Okay, so with that, I will entertain a motion for the acceptance of ordinance number 118.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we approve ordinance 118 as presented in the agenda.
Thanks, Peter. Do you have a second on that?
Second.
Do you have a second? Any discussion on the motion? And hearing none, Ms. Laura, if you'll do roll call vote?
yes,
Yes.
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 Thank you, Donna. So number 3 on the action item, discussion and consideration of out-of-town water connections for lots B, C, and D on Miller Lane. So Mr. Walters.
We are currently under contract to purchase Lot A on Miller Lane for the new water tank. And on those lots, it doesn't show up here, but when these lots were created, they come down here not too far below the water tank and run up or dedicate an easement across the lot we're purchasing and the next 2 lots, so that all 4 of those lots could be served by town water if the new owners wanted to be hooked to town water versus drill a well. Well, what that easement does is it kind of pinches us in as far as the location of the water tank. We do feel like we could get the water tank in there, but if that easement is gone, it just frees us up totally. So I spoke to the realtor spoke to the owners who currently still own all 4 lots. They were fine with just vacating that easement, making it go away, as long as they have access to town water. Spoke to Jordan and Jason. We can eliminate or vacate that easement during our closing. That document's already been prepared by Litton Site. What the owners asked was before they agreed or before they signed at closing, they just want, because it is out of town, it requires council approval for these lots to have out-of-town water service. And what the owners have asked is for council to go on and approve out-of-town water connections for lots B, C, and D now, and then that way in the future, there is no question if somebody comes along and says, hey, if we want to hook up to water, could we? They won't have to say, yeah, but you got to go to the town council. The owners want that done now. I certainly understand that. It makes sense. Can you go to the next one? And the water line is actually on Miller Lane, right in front of all 4 lots. And really, that's the best place for a connection anyway, not up where this easement was. The issue with where the easement was we were probably not going to be able to provide them the pressure they need at the meter because they are so close to the tank. So the connections on Miller Lane down at the bottom of the hill is a much better location anyway. Although I have told them all that even though you're down on Miller Lane, you're probably still going to have a pressure pump on these residences in the future. But that's something we'll deal with also when the houses, if somebody requests. So what they're asking is just for you to approve out-of-town water connections for lots B, C, and D. Any questions?
No? Thank you, Todd. Council hearing what Todd had to say there. No questions with it, so I will entertain a motion on action item number 3.
I make a motion that we approve the out-of-town water conditions for lots B, C, and D on Miller Lane.
Okay, do you have a motion? Do I have a second?
I'll second.
And a second. Discussion on that motion? Hearing none. Ms. Laura?
Yes.
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 Motion's passed. Again, thank you. Moving right along. Mayor's comments. The only thing I have to say is, again, couldn't be more proud of the town. Walking through town, driving through town, hearing from the different people. Obviously, you all know my office is in Harrisonburg. I get people from a lot of different areas in Harrisonburg saying, boy, how beautiful our town is. And so I'm looking at some of the faces that disseminate that compliment to all the employees. So I just want to say Merry Christmas to everybody. But also thank you for putting that pride out there for what's happening in Newmarket. So thank you. And that's all I have to say. With that, council, any comments?
I would add that I appreciate the activities in town as well. Not only does it look good, it feels good, and there's a lot of engagement with people throughout the town. So I thank the staff. I know Amber, you put a lot of work, I know all of you put a lot of work into it.
Anybody else? No? Okay. And of course, staff, any other comments?
Just an update. It's possible we will close on that lot. I don't know that it'll happen towards the end of before the end of the year, but it may. So after tonight, where Jordan M has everything ready, so we would be ready to close, and we will own that lot. We did have a meeting last week to discuss the inspection of our existing tank. As I told you in our update, that tank, I don't know that we found anything that we wasn't expecting. And now it's down to the numbers. First, do we want to rehab it, make it last a little longer, or do we want to, while we're into this, replace it? We're still, I wouldn't say on Wednesday that we really came to any clear-cut idea, but there was a lot of ideas floating around. And we'll be meeting again, but that's where we are on the water project. It is moving along. I know it doesn't seem like it is, but it is. They are working on the PER for the stuff that has to be turned into VDH. And so it is moving, and we are meeting and discussing it as we go. I believe that's all as far as updates of major stuff. As we come to the end of another year, as hard as that is to believe, I want to thank staff also, all of the staff, all of council. You are really wonderful to work for. You have a cohesiveness that is obvious. You don't always agree, and that's the way it should be, but you always work through things. It's really nice to be able to work for y'all. I'll just say that. I don't get a lot of pressure. I don't get a lot of questions. And not that that's a bad thing, but I hope that I'm giving you what you want. I'm keeping you updated as you want. But if ever you feel like I'm not, please let me know. We, as staff, appreciate y'all. We appreciate what you're trying to do in this town. But I think more importantly, we appreciate y'all appreciating us. And that shows. And sometimes these guys only get to hear the bad stuff, and they only get the calls on the bad stuff. But there's a lot of good things going on. There's a lot of good stuff happening, and we'll just have to see what 2022 brings. But it's nice to know somebody's got your back no matter what you're facing. And 2021, it didn't go smooth. There's always going to be stuff. There is always going to be stuff that we all have to face, but we work through it and we move on. And I just want to say thank you and Merry Christmas.
But thank you. And I forgot to mention the gift basket to us, town. Thank you. I mean,
Thank you.
beautiful. We appreciate it very much so. Yeah. So with that, I will accept a motion to adjourn this meeting.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
We do have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any nays? This meeting is adjourned.